Welcome to the Modern Assyrian program on ANB SAT. My name is Carmen Morad. Council Member Bill Zoslocki of District 4 in the City of Modesto is our special guest today. Council Member Bill Zoslocki represents District 4 of the City of Modesto. Bill is a longtime Modesto resident with over 30 years of experience as a small business owner in Modesto. His family started in the business community of Central California in the late 1950s. Councilman Bill Zoslocki has a record of community involvement, including being a member of the Modesto Rotary, volunteering for 9 years in the weekly feeding program for Monday Night Church, mentoring at Redwood Family Center, serving as president of the Stanislaus Emergency Food and Shelter Program, as a member of the Airport Advisory Committee. He is a licensed pilot who donates services to the Flying Doctors of Mercy, which provide medical care to remote areas in Modesto. Council Member Zoslocki was elected to the Modesto City Council in 2013 and re-elected in November of 2017. His committee appointments include Economic Development Committee Chair, and he's also a member of the Finance Committee. Councilman Bill Zoslocki is married to his wife Kathy, and they have 2 daughters. Welcome, Council Member.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Absolutely.
For this conversation. Let me first begin by congratulating you on your re-election.
Thank you.
Your constituents in District 4 overwhelmingly re-elected you to serve them, to represent them.
Highly honored.
I want to say, is it 79.9% or is it?
79.79, I believe, is just close to 80.
It's very impressive. That means, Council Member, you're doing something right. You have been, again, given the confidence by your constituents to serve them, to be the steward of their money, but not just for your district constituents, but for the entire City of Modesto. So thank you for serving again. I want to ask you about what it feels like when you know you have 4 more years to serve, 4 more years of challenges. And in your first term, what was it that you didn't expect you would be tackling? And what do you look forward to in the next 4 years on the City Council?
You know, it may end up being 5 years.
That's
the
right.
state of California just adopted a policy that we should move from odd years to even year elections, and we're sorting through right now. And I hope our constituents weigh in on that process. But 4 years is fine. I don't need the extra year, but it could end up being that way if that's what the citizens choose. With the first 4 years, it goes by faster than you would think, and during an election year when you're running, you never know. You just don't. You can't tell. Everyone says, "Oh, you're going to do fine," but as having been here and knowing that the public, they get to choose, and they can change about someone's opinion quite quickly. So you run as though you're always behind. And I remember, and Kathy, my wife, who you've met,
Yeah.
she's my number one aide in filtering information and seeing stuff, and she got out there and helped me walk the neighborhoods. In fact, she's the true champion of knocking on doors. When I had to go to committee meetings and such, she was out there knocking on doors, giving me feedback. What people would say, and we'd say, "Well, do you think we're going to make it?" "I don't know. I don't know." So we just kept running as though we were in last place, and we did all the way to the very end, and quite surprisingly received warm acceptance of our district and fully appreciated it. And now I have a greater load to meet expectations of my districts, I'm sure. But you never know. And that's, as we go through the process now, looking for the next 4 years, what the challenges are going to be. We had some initially in the first 4 years, but I entered in this this campaign, this service, as a city council member, concerned about our economy, about our unemployment, about things that prevented employment. I come as a businessman, and having experiences in businesses as a businessman, I could see that perhaps that was something would be an asset in our community in that experience, and that's what started me in this process. And that's still a big challenge for the city of Modesto, and it's towns in the Central Valley commonly have challenges within economic development, creating employment, and lowering their unemployment rate. And so I see that still carrying over and part of things that are happening.
At city council meetings, Bill, I've noticed you are so engaged. You're informed about the issues, that you don't just vote on them. You exchange in conversations, especially if someone from the public has a story to share, or if there is one of those votes. And I know some of the meetings have been taking very late.
They have. Sometimes they do.
Sometimes
they do. Yeah, we had one just went to almost 1 o'clock.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
Not
do.
all of them. That's rare. That was rare. That was
Yeah.
first time that late since I've been on council. So.
Yeah. But I want to ask you, you said the economy is one of the reasons that prompted you to run for office.
It was what really encouraged me to do something.
And the reason that you, as a businessman, as a successful businessman, as someone who's been in Modesto for over 30 years,
1967.
and has contributed, not just economically, but you are a man of faith.
I am.
You're very spiritual. I've had the privilege of inviting you, and you have attended a lot of events, especially with the Assyrian community, with the Assyrian Church of the East, our festivals and our church.
Wow.
And you engage in conversations that are very genuine, especially with the status of Christians that are facing persecutions, or especially the Assyrian community. Tell us a little bit about that passion that you have, that you help refugees, whether it's housing. I know you don't talk about it, but I know, because I work with the organizations, that you have been very generous with giving opportunities for those who seek a better way of life, for those who seek a freedom to practice their religion and their Christianity. Tell us where that comes from, where you actually incorporate it in your way of life and how you believe.
It's actually, growing up, I happened to grow up with a grandmother that loved the Word of God. And I spent lots of time with her going to church, and got that as a basis. And then so many of us, we grow up and we get into the middle, teenage years. We start challenging the basic things that we were all taught. And usually you come to a point, and I did, in life, of you have to make a choice, what your roots in the faith and what you're seeing, and the hand, what I call the invisible hand of God, and recognizing and acknowledging. I came to that point and acknowledge God, acknowledge Christ as my Savior, acknowledge Him as my King, and I think through that, watching and seeing opportunities where God has opened the door or done things, I learned that this is, some people will understand it, some people may not. Those of us as faith understand it. I learned He's ahead of me. And if I just look for the doors that He opens, that I'm able to be effective for Him. And to me, that's very important. That's what I live and enjoy. And when I see things happen that are unexpected, it's because of God. It's because of His actions. And He's out there in front. I just need to have the ears to hear and have the eyes to see where he's moving and doing something and go that direction. And he's faithful God.
I remember you spoke very passionately at August 7th, as you know,
Mhm.
is the Assyrian genocide.
Genocide,
remembrance.
yes.
And at a cathedral in Modesto, you spoke. This was about 2-3 years ago, I believe.
I remember
And
vividly.
there was such a passion that came about, and there was videos and there were speeches that were given, but you are so genuine with your concern about what's going on, and you go out of your way to help those who need help. So I want to thank you for that. And as you do that, you raise awareness to what the challenges of different diverse communities, especially the Assyrian community here in Modesto. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's it was it. How can you turn your eyes from the tragedies that have occurred to so many that are in the ways of destruction, and those that are brutal and murderous, and create such a division and such a catastrophe on innocent people? It's impossible to ignore that, at least from my terms, the way the way I understand and see things. When you see it, and you see pictures, and you know what's going on, it may not all be visible in the press as it's being reported, but it's not hard to understand what's going on in those communities. And those are innocent people, and they deserve a voice and to be recognized and to be courageous enough to say, this is wrong. How can we help people in those situations, especially when they're in a country that is doing everything to move them out or kill them.
In their own ancestral homelands.
In their own ancestral homelands, and having, as you've told me, they've been there for centuries.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. For
centuries, and what a tragedy for that to be occurring. And as helpless as we are here, at least we can reach out and try to help those that are there and encourage them to keep trying. We love you.
So thank
Here.
you for raising awareness. One of the things that we can do is to raise awareness and to help. The premise of this program, Council Member, is to engage in civic engagement, to raise awareness of being informed and how we can give back to a community that has embraced us.
Yeah.
And help give back to, whether it's volunteering within our government offices, whether it's in hospitals, whether it's raising our kids to be more informed and aware. Let's talk about what you do as a civil servant, about quality of life issues, about in your district. Of course, as I said, you don't just serve your constituents, even though they are the ones who elect you, but you also make decisions on behalf of the entire residents of the city of Modesto. And the challenges that you have faced within the last 4 years, and you will be facing within the next 4 or 5 years, depending on what will happen. Talk about some of the highlights that you hear about from your constituents, whether it's economy, whether it's homelessness, vagrancy, public safety. What seems to be at the top of your list that you hear about?
Oh, right now, just locally, and this would be within the bounds of our city, is we're challenged with vagrants, homelessness. Although having worked in, Kathy, my wife, again, and I served together in a homeless ministry in a local church. And I was the music guy. I was the guy that led worship in the church for this homeless attendance that was there. And it was every single Monday. It was a lot of fun. We got to know people, and a number of people were disadvantaged, but they came for the common reason that I was there. They loved God. And so having had that experience, we learned something about homelessness. There are those that are there because we offered a meal, and they were drug addicted or alcohol addicted, or they could perhaps be even running from the law. We don't know. We didn't ask questions. We just gave them food. But then we also talked about God and encouraged them about changing their lives. And we had successes with that, where people understood it and they would engage and come and want to pray and meet, and they'd grow. They'd actually grow. It was a lot of fun. Out of that, though, the population that I would call more vagrants, they were the drug and alcohol addicted, mostly drug addicted. Their task in life was to get to the next meal, to go out and either collect cans or do something, and quite often turn toward a destructive side. Mm-hmm. And we're experiencing an ever-increasing amount of that currently in Modesto, but it's not exclusively in our community. It's actually statewide. And at the state level, with changes in the law, AB 109 came down from the courts ordering a reduced population in the prisons because of prison overcrowdings. And in order to do that, the state would reallocate prisoners that were generally drug addicted, not so much the violent offenders, but maybe they were drug addicted but not convicted for violent offenders. So they're being shifted down to our local level, to our county jails, and now at the county jails, because of AB 109, we see an increased crowding in jails and the ability to manage that prison population is such that they had to release prisoners into our streets. And in the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen a significant increase in street population of those that are drug offenders and those that are addicted to drugs, walking our streets and causing havoc in many of our communities. That's probably the number one problem I'm hearing about right now, and it's accelerating. The numbers are increasing. It's not going the other direction. And the fix on the problem, because of Prop 47 and 57, it reduced penalties and changed the level of what a felony required, and maintains a atmosphere where our local police hands are tied. They just can't do anything, because if you steal something less than $950 and your possession of drugs is small enough, you're just really given a ticket and released. And most of the time, consumers of drugs don't have a lot of drugs. Their life is, how do we get enough money to go buy the next quantity of drugs that I'm going to need for tonight? And it's a real challenge. It's a real challenge.
So that is the number one challenge. Now, tell our viewers a little bit about what you have heard from communities that they are doing to step up, to face the challenge, and to take ownership of the neighborhoods and the parks in their neighborhoods, so they can reduce the negative impacts of what you just described.
I think most important is the community itself needs to find its identity. So in my district, I have multiple communities, and each one of those communities has its own characteristics that's slightly different than all the others, but a lot of the same. Mm-hmm. And upon finding that identity, any community that gathers its own resources, and I'm not saying physical dollars, I'm just talking about people and who they are. And mm-hmm. If they gather that understanding that they are unique, and they would like to preserve that and engage in a process of improving their community. It takes work, mm-hmm. Rather than surrendering it over to those that are causing havoc. And that means I have one community, I'll say the name of it, it's Loma, and there's others besides. Mm-hmm. Lakewood is another one, very engaged, and others. I know I'm going to leave one out and I'll be hearing from them. Why did you say me? But Loma has identified with it, and with their limited resources, but what they have is a lot of energy and a lot of love for their community, and they don't want to lose it. And so they have taken on work days where they, East Loma Park and down Dry Creek, which is, for those that don't live in Modesto, it's a large creek that runs into Tuolumne River. So the parts of Dry Creek in Loma, is a park. It's beautiful down there. And they'll walk it and pick up trash. They just, if it's there, why leave it? Pick it up, throw it away. And they have work days City helps with dumps and such, but they've taken control of their community. They said, this is not acceptable, we're not going to live that way. And they'll complain to me, which is fine, of all the things that are going on. But they don't just stop there, they do something about it. And any community that will recognize they have a valuable asset, it's them. And it's their community, and it truly is theirs. Take ownership. If there's trash, pick it up. Don't just leave it there. If it's people going through the neighborhood that don't fit, and they know that they're up to mischief, it's keeping an eye on it and reporting any activity. Even though you may not get a response, once it's reported, it does become public record. So
Let's
engage
take
in
a
that
break
process.
and come back and talk a little bit more about some of the plans that you have.
Okay.
We'll be right back with Council Member Bill Zoslocki.
بعينات بغزايخ شبرة بريتا وأمانوتا وخلقت سيارة بهيارتت عيناتن باليابخ بقرايخ وبكتابخ أنا نقايوتا كخامتت عيناتوخون سلامت بيش نزريز تهار ماشين بريشة كسخصتت عيناتوخون أن ماشين إينا رابا تكنيكاية بخادر كاللايا تبوكم بأسيا جون مايكل أفون اتلخان نسيان رابا إرفيخا جدا جخلا سخصتت عيناتا سخصتا سلاماتويتا وخامتت بارد عيناتوخون ماسيتون سابيتون لجودت أسيا جون مايكل جو Retina Institute of Illinois أسيا جون مايكل اتل subspecialty جو retina وكامس غير قداني كأتلون مرض شاكر يان diabetic retinopathy, retinal detachment, macular degeneration, and complications of cataract surgery. جو من ديت شيكاغو غريمون المنيان التلفون شوامو شوفيتلا شوامو تماني أربا إتشي أربا سيبار جو من ديت نايل سكريمون المنيان التلفون تمانية مو أربي شافا ترمو إتشي شافا تماني أتشا سيبار
We all have that one person we call, no matter what the situation or event. Who do you call when you've had a stressful day at work? When you get the news that you're having your first child, or that you landed your dream job? Now, what if you or a loved one have been injured and need advice? Who do you call? Think about it.
دبوش مطانياته وبقارة قاعبي لوخون ماسيتون قاريتون المنيانة تلمو تريسر وتجمو اسري اتشا كلايت منيا سيبار شافا توني اسكالاغراكوس and the associates ماسي هايريلان بيلي شانا آتورايا.
Have you tried to get rid of that unwanted stubborn fat with diet and exercise, but it just won't go away? Is that stubborn fat spoiling your weight loss efforts or ruining your physique? Introducing Sculpture, a laser-based system that removes fat without surgery so you can enjoy a slimmer, trimmer figure. Sculpture allows you to remove fat from specific areas of your body like the belly, back, waist, and thighs. Sculpture removes slices of fat layer depending on a number of treatment sessions. Sculpture is a cosmetic procedure that is non-invasive and doesn't require incisions or surgery. Each session is 25 minutes long. It uses patented laser heat technology to target only fat layers underneath the skin, breaking down the walls of the fat cells and liquefying them so your body can carry the debris away over the course of 6 to 12 weeks. Dr. Fatima Pazuki is an experienced provider of sculpture treatments for patients in and around Turlock, California. Dr. Pazuki helps patients achieve the results they're seeking with individualized consultations and treatment plans. Call us at 209-216-3570 or book an appointment online.
Thomas Auto Sales, Gumantica, California. قشوفصار شنة توماس أورو سيلز اتلنسيانا جزبنتت أطموبيلة جمديتت مانتيكا كاليفورنيا. جو توماس أورو سيلز كبل خيرابا قشية قميتت خدوتا غزونانا قد بالت خدية بأطموبيل خاتي ين مبلخة بخات ديما رابا مرديانا. جو توماس أورو سيلز كم سخيراخ لوخم بفاينانسينج وشغلتد لونز. ميقرأ كمال توماس مارد توماس أورو سيلز مقروب اللي قيكوت زوناندنا أمتن بديابل $10 ديسكاونت مال ليست برايس. أدرس دي إن إيلا 8 East Yosemite Avenue جمدية مانتيكا كاليفورنيا كمسيتون قاريتون لن آل 3 سيبر أجا 3 لا أجا سيبر
Thank you for coming back and joining us. We're here with Council Member Bill Zoslocki, continuing our conversation. We talked about some of the negative impacts that you hear from your constituents. Let's talk about some of the positive impacts. We have great residents in the city of Modesto.
We do.
There's such community pride. It's not just citywide city pride, as our logo says, but there are residents of this community that love where they live. They love their parks, they love their communities, and they step up. There's organizations. Tell us about the ones that you have heard from and the awesome things that they do.
Okay, so one of them will be, I'll go back to La Loma since we were talking about that, but first I'll talk about another park experience and in a community that the kinds of things that you love to have happen as a council member, and that's when someone calls up and they say they have a problem, which most things, when I get a call, there's a problem. That's just the way things are. And so I received a call from a gentleman, and they were saying that the Parks Department was disassembling the playground in the park that had been there for 30 years probably, across the street from where he lived, and wanted to know why they can't replace the equipment. So as a council member, I got a hold of the city manager and the Parks Department. It was, we have gone through a pretty lengthy recession, so we don't have a lot of extra money for parks and playgrounds, and it's a $130,000 investment to fix this playground.
Sure.
But the children deserve that. I know my children sure loved going to the playground when they were small. And so we started investigating, and this neighbor came in as an advocate for solutions. So if there was a problem, he would dig into it and come up with solutions, which I love. So we were told that the playground equipment wasn't available. The company was out of business. And so he calls me up and says, "Hey, Bill, I got to show you something." So he comes down to City Hall, goes to my office, says, "I want to show you this." I said, "What's that?" He said, "It's a brand new part for the playground equipment." He said, "You can still buy the equipment." I said, "You're kidding me." I said, "Staff doesn't know that you can, how did you?" Well, Google, of course. He Googled, went on search engine, found the equipment. Company went out of business, but another company bought them, and you could buy the same parts. So he had invested enough time and made a list of everything that we needed, contacted this park equipment and our park company, and had a complete list of what it was going to cost to replace all of the stuff that needed to be replaced. And it was about $18,000 total. And he said, there's enough interest in my community. I think we get the people put together if we can get the city to pay for the parts. I said, "This is done. This is easy. This is what the city is about." We like it when neighbors say, "We'll fix it. We'll help fix it. We'll engage. We'll lower the cost." So I went to my city manager, and he immediately said, "We're doing it. We're doing it." So the big work day then, where the city bought all of the equipment, big work day. The city provided some resources, and the neighbors all came out. The Girl Scouts were there, the Boy Scouts were there. They dug trenches, and they put in all the posts and dug things out. And anyway, replaced all of the equipment for less than, there are a few other items that need to go on, but less than $20,000, $25,000 for $135,000. It was a great success. The park's a focus of every 4th of July and other times. People are always using the park, and neighborhood night out, big event at that park. It was just a great success, and it's how a neighbor solves their problems and says, "We're part of the solution. We're not just
Those are the
problem."
good stories we want to hear from.
That's one. Another one. Do I have time?
I do.
Okay,
I do.
another
We
one.
want to hear from you.
Another one is in the La Loma area. They had some dirt property across from a school, been that way, just dirt and weeds for 50 years probably. And they said, and it's on a major thoroughfare through the middle of their neighborhood. And they said, "We want to put a natural garden in this area. That would be indigenous plants in this area." And they did much of the same thing. They got all the neighbors together, and they asked the city, can we turn this into a park? I said, of course. We wouldn't have any money. They said, just give us water. Okay, we got the water hooked up. That was easy. And we provided equipment and whatever, things they couldn't. And then they went out and raised the physical resources, had work days. People came out and hoed weeds and did things. They went out and found a contractor with tractors, and he graded it and cleaned off the lot. And then they had to trench and put a bunch of for piping, for sprinkler pipes. And the neighbors showed up and put it all together. They went out and found the plants, the indigenous plants, and planted them all over. And 2 months ago had a grand opening on this. It's about 2 acres right across from the Loloma Junior High School. And it's a great park. And it was just dirt. And it was the citizens that said, that's not good enough for us. It's been that way forever. We can just leave it alone and live with the weeds and the dust, or we can do something about it. And they took it on and said, we want to do something about it. That's fun. And it's not government solving all the problems. It's the community saying, here's our problem. We'll step up and provide the resources. You help out with some funding on it, and we'll get it done. And we did.
So it's the public sector and the private sector working together.
Correct.
And with our city council members providing and deciphering and navigating through the system to help everyone. These are the good stories that we want to hear.
And they're
about.
the fun things.
Yeah.
They're fun things. It's great because everyone now has ownership of it. So the neighbors, their job on the Loloma Park is to maintain that park. But once or twice a year, the city will go in and do major work. They'll do major prunings and things that can't be done and take care of those things. In the meantime, we have a beautiful park, nice trail through it with indigenous plants. And if you're landscaping your house and you want to put drought-tolerant plants that grow locally, you can go look at them and say, oh, I like that, little signs of what the plants are on it. And some of the trees are, the individual streets have taken ownership on it. So a little poster, on a rock actually, it says the street name, so the citizens of that street come out and maintain the street, or the tree, and keep it pruned and the weeds down. It's fun.
This is a great story that I'm sure not many people know about Modesto and its residents.
That's Modesto. Even our police cars says, I'm going to get it wrong. Sorry, Galen, that's our chief. A city of good neighbors.
Great neighbors.
Great neighborhoods, great neighborhoods. That's Modesto.
Yes.
It's when things get tough, we tend to pull together and we figure out how to get through it. We have had economic challenges, significant when we had the foreclosure crisis. Stanislaus County was usually one of 3 of the top foreclosure areas. I think my phone is ringing. Is that buzzing through? I don't know if you can hear a buzzing sound. That was my phone. It's on silent, but it still buzzes. And so we had this economic crisis in our community.
Yes, we did.
Pretty drastic. We were either the bottom or the top number of foreclosures, or the second place or third place between San Joaquin and Merced County on either side at the same place as us, or maybe someplace in Florida. But in any case, we've managed to get through that. And our city is on a path of recovery, I believe. We still need to grow our economic base. We need to grow our industrial base significantly to determine whether what we have available industry-wise is adequate to support the taxes that need to be generated locally. We're not quite there at understanding that, but where we're located, Modesto, for those that don't know, we're east of San Francisco, about 80 miles. And San Francisco and the whole Bay Area is one of the strategic growth markets through internet and those kinds of services in the world. They're number one, and we're just a few miles from them, and we have places for families to grow up, and they don't.
And we do.
And we do, and we need to take full advantage of providing for young families that are looking for a great place to grow up. We have 2 rivers on both sides one through the middle of town, one just east of town or north of town.
We do.
And it's a great community.
Council Member, in closing, I'd like to ask you, what do you see in your next term that major challenge that you'll be tackling? And in closing, if you'd like to share with the residents of the city of Modesto about what you want to be known for as your legacy as serving as a civil servant on the Modesto City Council.
Okay, so I'll start with probably the major challenges are much the same. One, economic development in Modesto. We are challenged with industry. I remember when I ran for the first time I jumped into the mayoral race, I was the odd guy. Who is that? Against two known seasoned political city council members. It was for mayor. I just jumped in just to try to make some noise because they weren't talking about the economy enough for me. And I used to ask the question, can you name for me one major manufacturer that's come into Modesto in the last 20 years? And there's been a number of major manufacturers, but not in the city of Modesto, adjoining city of Modesto. So they would start shouting out names of these manufacturers. I said, no, I'm talking about in the city of Modesto that's paying our tax base. And there was none. And that was a shock for people. We still have that problem. We've had companies come in, but usually they're around Modesto. We need businesses in our city limits. We need to be selfish for a while and say we want companies in our city, not just out of our city, because we have obligations to our citizens to provide adequate roads and streets and water and sewer and assistance in schools and all of those things that are very, very important for a successful city. That challenge is still there, and we are working on it. But it's a long-term fix, and I said it then, I'll say it now. I will not live probably to enjoy the successes of having good economic policy in place, because it's long-term. It's planning now for industry to come into our community, and usually industrial-type properties take years to fill in. So hopefully the fruits of that will go to our citizens in the future. But I think it's not what I'm wanting to see. It's what I want the city to become. The second thing is what we talked about with vagrancy, and that spills into economic development, opportunity, knowing that there is a job out there, and even identifying with that right now. So many people don't realize we are an increasing economy, in my opinion. And opportunity, if you can take a drug test and pass it, the meaning that you don't have drugs in your system, and basic rudimentary abilities to write and read and understand, blue-collar jobs are some of the best paying jobs around. When I was young, a plumber, electrician, a sheetrocker, guys that I knew a lot of, they were paid well. Now they're some of the top paid industries. It doesn't take much. Just don't use drugs. And to express that to particularly our youth that are feeling like there's no future or hope, that's not true. That is not true. Just keep yourself clean. And study and learn the basic rudiments, and opportunity exists significantly out there. I grew up wanting to be an airline pilot. I had bad eyesight, so I could never do it. Right now there's 35,000 pilots, top paying jobs, $200,000-$300,000 for those kinds of captains. And huge shortage, never happened in the past. We have about 35,000 positions that need to be filled in. That's great work for those that go on and get their BA and higher education and learn basic flight training. Wide open field, never happened since I've been alive. And so it's a good time. It's a good time, especially becoming in the market. There's so much opportunity out there.
There is hope and there is opportunity.
There is hope. There is hope. Don't believe what people are telling you. Use your eyes and see, because the opportunity that exists, the job opportunity that exists right now, if you listen to the naysayers, it's not true. Pick your goal and go after it, because my age is a big baby boom, or what do we call them? The boomers.
Baby boomers?
Yeah, baby boomers. A lot of people are retiring, and there's a huge demand for all of those that are retiring. I don't care if it's in government and private industry. There is opportunity coming. I should say everywhere, not just in Modesto, but everywhere throughout this country. And so if you have hopes and dreams, if you're young, particularly I want to speak to those that are younger right now and trying to decide where they want to go with their life. It is a good time. Don't lose sight of that goal. Go for what your passion is and go after it, because it's probably the best chance of an economy for hiring that we've seen in the last 40 years.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Member, for those words of wisdom and inspiration and motivation. And I hope our viewers who needed to hear those words will really take it into heart and follow in your footsteps, and not just contribute economically, but also perhaps get involved in politics and serve
absolutely.
And make decisions that can make a difference like you do.
And believe in the capacity that you can make a difference. That is so important. That you'll run into the naysayers and those that will diminish that, but believe in, if you have the truth, you know where you are in your relationship with God, you can literally do whatever your heart desires.
Thank you so much for your time, Council Member. I really enjoyed our interview, and
thank you.
And I'm looking forward to following your service and the differences that you make for the residents of the City of Modesto. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next Modern Assyrian program on ANB SAT.